young Indonesian designer who recently showcased her work at the Shibuya Fashion Week. Hi, Vicky. How are you?
Hi, Vicky.
Hello.
I'm really good. How are you guys?
We're great. So we just talked about, gossiped about your design a little bit here with Kai and also Yanni. So could you please tell us first, your journey as a fashion designer, how did you start everything?
Okay, so being a fashion designer has been a childhood dream of mine. It's actually funny to say that I've been wanting to be a fashion designer since I was 3 years old.
Wow.
And it all happened because my dad showed me a fashion show on TV. I remember seeing the whole collection and the designer at the end of the show and thinking, wow, I want to be just like him. And then I started my sewing lesson when I was in middle school. And even when I secretly hated sewing, I never think I want anything rather than being a fashion designer.
Well, let's talk about this look, right? Because
Yes.
this is haute couture, state of the art, and it's very eye-catching. What inspired you to create the collection that was showcased at the Shibuya Fashion Week?
Okay, so actually, the Shibuya Fashion Week itself has its own theme called Skin. And the director told us that the concept of the collection, it's all about body positivity. According to the theme, I tried to think of what message I want to show people in my design. And then I look at society now and how I think people are quickly to judge others by their appearance.
Yeah.
And how outer beauty is overly glorified.
Okay.
I decided to make it all about inner beauty.
Yeah.
And then when I think about someone's inner beauty, I think about the human skin, the human's appearance just slowly vanishing and
Yeah.
revealing their true beauty. And that's why my design looks like a peeling skin with the pearl-shaped bone inside that symbolize your true beauty and value.
Wow.
Beautiful, like the pearls.
Well thought of.
Yeah. Well, correct us if we're wrong, but we heard that you use pork skin as the main material of the dress. Now, is it true? And why did you use pork skin other than other skin?
Or leather.
Yeah, leather.
So when I first told my teacher that I got into the Shibuya Fashion Week, I asked her for a help of how could I make this design of mine to become a reality. And then she said that she knew this pork skin, that when pork skin is put into water, it's gonna become so soft, it's gonna become like clay. And then you can just make whatever you want with the pork skin, and then after it dries, it's gonna be so hard to the point that you can actually knock it and it makes a wood sound.
Right. So it's just got the right properties of it. So your design can be made
Yes.
into reality through this pork skin. Wow, that's amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
we're just, wondering, okay, there's a theme, skin, and you come up with inner beauty, as you mentioned, right? Why this inner beauty? Do you have any concern about, inner beauty or how people perceive beauty in general?
Oh yes, of course. So I'm a plus size myself, and then my whole life people are just talking about like, oh, you're supposed to be skinnier to be more prettier. You're supposed to lose a few pounds so you can look good. And then all I think about is I have more qualities than my numbers on the scale, and then I wish people could see me for who I am instead of my numbers on the scale.
I'm with you, girl.
Yeah.
Well, people are certainly seeing you now.
Yeah.
And that's what matters, is
Thank
because
you.
they're seeing everything else that is important, and that is your
Great.
talent. And is this, speaking of talent, your first international fashion show, or have you participated or, got selected into other international events prior to Shibuya Fashion Week?
No, this is my first big event, and then I actually failed a lot before I actually get here. And then being in this event is actually like giving me more motivation and inspire me to become better.
How many years have you been studying in Japan, by the way?
It's only 22.
Yeah, you're only
It's
22.
really young.
This is my third year in Bunka Fashion College, and then before that, I study 1 year in Japanese language school.
Oh.
Wow. So you can say that the Shibuya Fashion Week was your big break. Now, what about the VL brand that you made? Could you tell us more about the brand?
So VL by Vicky is actually not a brand yet.
Ah,
It's a portfolio of what I've made so far. But making VL by Vicky a fashion brand is actually a dream of mine.
Okay, so it's still on the process
Yeah.
of becoming a big brand. Hopefully it's going to be big soon. And also we know the fashion trends always change every year and are often influenced by various things. Now, in your opinion, what trend is considered the most different in 2022 we compare it to, previous years?
Okay, so personally, rather than the fashion item, I'm really impressed by how the fashion industry is starting to become more and more open about body positivity. I mean, have you seen how many plus size models finally get to walk on
Yes.
International Fashion Week? Yes, and then some trends in 2022 is also about being comfortable in your own body, and I love that. But regarding to the fashion item itself, the thing about 2022 is they try to make traditional clothes shapes more unique and unusual. So for example, you can see Miu Miu's micro mini skirt that's actually just an adaptation of a usual mini skirt that's even more shorter than the usual length.
Ah, okay.
Well, this is certainly very interesting because you were just talking about trends, and more and more people here in Indonesia are turning into local brands or local designers, or just Indonesian designers wherever they are based. Do you think these brands can compete with international brands? Now that you are exposed to the international fashion industry, in comparison to what it looks like in Indonesia, what do you think local brands have to do to make it internationally?
Okay, so I think Indonesian brand is so good and they're so creative, and Indonesian youth is just so open-minded with everything and so creative. Like living in Japan actually just make me realize that, oh, I think actually Indonesian people are much more creative and much more brave to actually start their own company or start their new enterprises, and then I think that's a really good thing.
Well, I mean, if you are in Japan right now, have you seen changes, during the pandemic? Because we know that in Indonesia, there are a lot of brands local brands that
Yeah.
suddenly just came up, right?
Yeah.
What about in Japan? Is it the same? Or as you mentioned, Indonesian are just so creative and brave, braver than Japanese, for example?
Yeah.
Yes, I think like in here, most of my classmates, when they're asked, what are you going to do after graduation? They usually said, oh, I'm going to get into a company. I'm going to work for other people other than, oh, I'm going to make my own brand. And it's actually such a shame because my classmates, they're so creative and then they're so good at making clothes, but they're just going to go to a usual company or a traditional company here in Japan, and then they probably won't make clothes ever again in their life. And then I think, oh, wow, if only they're in Indonesia, probably Indonesian people are gonna keep making businesses and new stuff
Yeah.
in their lives. So I think that's a really good
Here,
thing.
Indonesia.
Do you
to
think it's bravery, or that it's just easier to start a business in Indonesia? Because I feel like, is it the culture there that people are, less brave, or is there a bureaucracy that's much more difficult to start a business in Japan, perhaps? Rather than Indonesia, you can just start from your own garage and that's it.
easier?
Yeah, I think it's easier too, but at the same time, like Indonesian youth, like literally has the guts that they don't really like care about what people want in their life. Probably they're more like, oh, I want to become an entrepreneur, then I'm gonna become my own entrepreneur like that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I mean, it's amazing to see these changes in our youth, especially becoming entrepreneur is not easy. It's always challenging. It's
Yeah.
always, you have to think out of the box a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so Vicky, you know
very
what to do, right? Graduate, and then you come back to Indonesia
And start your
then
brand.
start VL by Vicky Lovely.
All right.
All the best, Vicky. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hoping to see VL brand big very
Yes.
soon.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure.